And we're off. Right, hello, last one of the night, still Wednesday 14th of December, and the final one, just to get myself a little ahead of the game. Looks like a little miniature of aftershave, but it's not. It's a little sample that I procured when I, God, that was ages ago. I went to the Whiskey Lounge stash and purloined a few samples of a few interesting things. So Joe, Eddie, Amanda, everybody at the Whiskey Lounge, thank you very much for letting me nick off with some of your stock. And this particular one is the second Australian of the night, which is Hellyers Road peated. Now I keep wanting to call this Hellyers Road, so I probably will. So Hellyers Road is named after a gentleman called Henry Hellier, or Henry Hellier, who was an Englishman, who was one of the first officers to join the Van Diemen's Land Company, and went across to Tasmania and became a surveyor and an architect, and then also became a bit of an explorer. This was in, I think it was 1825 when he went across, and he became a bit of an explorer. He started basically to kind of explore Tasmania, and is very, very highly regarded in the area for being kind of a bit of a pioneer almost of the region. He was the first European to reach the summit of Cradle Mountain, and quite a few places in Tasmania are named after him, which is also this distillery. Tasmania is here, by the way, and that's where the distillery is. So Hellyers Road is I think it's called the Cascade Distillery as well, I think. But Hellyers Road is the brand. So they have a standard version, but also a peated as well, which is this, and this is what the bottle looks like. Now the Whisky Exchange are selling this at 73 quid a bottle. So it's a bit pricey, but it's from the other side of the world, so you can kind of understand that there is going to be a bit of a markup. It's 46.2%, which is also the percentage of their standard version as well, which is bourbon matured, whereas this is actually using peat from Inverness. So it is a lightly peated version. Now, the distillery itself started in 1997, and it was actually built by a dairy producer. It's Tasmania's biggest dairy producer, a company called Better Milk, but better with an A on the end of it, as in better with an A, not milk with an A, because that would be crazy. They decided, as you do, to move into whiskey distillation. So they invested 10 million Aussie dollars into building this very, very state-of-the-art distillery. And the master distiller was a guy called, was it Mark Littler? Yeah, Mark Littler, who was a total novice. Apparently before he started, basically the only thing he knew about whiskey was how to mix it with Coke. But he was quite experienced in dairy production, and it's essentially the skills that he had with that he brought across in terms of its temperature control, and it was kind of looking at production techniques and care of the distillation and what you're doing with it and all this lot. And it's the state-of-the-art technology that it's literally press a button, it does it itself. He can pretty much operate it from home. But it's kind of like a bold step, and as I've mentioned when I did, what did I just do? Starwood yesterday. Australia is beginning to get a good reputation, and Tasmania seems to be kind of the epicenter of whiskey in Australia rather than the mainland. So it's matured in bourbon casks, and like I say, they're using peat from Inverness to produce their peated version. So not tried this, not even nosed it. So in terms of the level of peat, I just about had enough. I don't actually know how full on we're going to find this, but let's see how we go, because you know, a peated version of anything, excuse me, is always going to be interesting. Is this a fair representation of Hellyers Road? Not really. It would have been good to get the standard version, but what chance am I ever going to have of finding that anyway? I count myself extremely lucky that I've managed to get this. So quite a light colour. Now it's a no age statement. Now their standard version that they do is a 10-year-old, whereas this doesn't have an age statement on, but I'm willing to bet it's around 8 to 10, something like that. No, I would guess no colouring added, because it really is quite light. Oh, well, it's peated. Now, this is an unusual nose. This is a very clean peat smell. This is there's not much depth to it, and it's the smokiness that's there, and it is smoky, is borderline cigarette smoke, which I'm not a great fan of, but this is the right side of cigarette smoke. This is a smoky, fiery ashiness, not cigarette compounds within a cigarette of God knows what that's wafting in your nose, but it's getting that way towards cigarette smoke. It is a very clean, quite ashy smokiness. You know, this is like embers of a fire when you've been burning paper. But there's something else there as well. There's a sharpness. It's almost a citrusy sharpness to it as well. Like you've had something on fire, but you've almost put lemon and lime juice on it as well, and it gives you this. There is a zing to it. There's a clean edge to this, which is most unusual, but very, very good. And that really carries through as well. It's not a great deal on the palate. There's not a huge amount, but what is there is good. It's quite sweet. It's kind of candy flossy. There's a slight nuttiness, but I don't know if I'm getting that from the peatiness that's there. And again, this smokiness, it's very clean. It's a very pure smoke, but it's quite light. It's not particularly overpowering. It's not actually as powerful as it is on the nose. I was expecting it to have a bit more oomph to it, whereas this, it's a bit more subdued. It's there, and it does leave a lingering ashiness in your mouth, but it's the sweetness that supports it actually works quite well. If it was any drier, I think it would be a little bit, not unpleasant, but it would be harder to tolerate. Whereas the sweetness that's there, and it is kind of a sugared almond sweetness as well. So it's sort of a sweet, slightly nutty element along with the smoke. It all works. It's delicate though. It's not massively full on. Definitely sugared almonds to start with, and as you swallow, the smokiness comes with you. There's a touch of earthiness to it as well. It really is like a bonfire that you've had in your back garden, and it's one where you've not put anything underneath, so it's on bare earth. The fire's died down, you've got the embers, you've got ash that's kind of floating around in the air, but you've got the slightly scorched earth element as well. There's a slight earthiness as well as this slightly dry, slightly ashy smokiness to it as well, but it all works. The sweetness and the ash and the earth do actually work quite well. It's got elements actually, a little bit of the Kilchoman Maccabee, which is a very good thing because that was a fantastic dram. It's not quite as earthy, and it's not quite as, it doesn't quite have the complexity, but it's not that far off. So if you like Kilchoman, and if you like the Maccabee in particular, it's probably worth searching this out, because this has that earthy tones to it. It has the ashy tones, and it has the slight sweetness. It's not quite up to the level, but it ain't far off, and it certainly is well worth checking out. And this would be interesting to put in a blind tasting, as most whiskies are. It's always interesting to put them in blind, but this would be very, very interesting to put this in blind tasting, because I think a lot of people would think, yeah, that's a Scotch Islay. It's something like Bruichladdich, Kilchoman, something along those lines. And it does, it holds its own. Now, would I pay 73 quid a bottle for it? Different matter entirely. It's come from around the world, it's unusual. I've got to say, I'm not a massive fan of packaging. I don't really like the packaging. It doesn't float my boat whatsoever. But that shouldn't obviously put me off what's in the glass, and what's in the glass is good. I'm liking this. As a fan of smoky whiskey, as a fan of Islay whiskies, as a fan of peat and smoke, it's not too close to the cigarette ashiness, cigarette smoke that I've found on a couple of peated whiskies that really has just not done it for me, because I don't like that type of flavour and that type of smell. But this is more of a, like I say, it's a bonfire in the garden that you've had, and you've scorched the earth as well. I certainly wouldn't pick it as Australian if I was trying it blind. I mean, I wouldn't even know what an Australian whiskey tasted like. So far I've had 2, and both of them have actually been very, very good indeed. So if you do like Kilchoman, give that a go. Definitely, it's worth searching out. I'd be interested to see what their standard version is like, because the peatiness is obviously giving it something interesting. Because it's a bit delicate, I do wonder if the core whiskey underneath that doesn't have the peaty character, whether it would have enough to stand on its own 2 feet. Will I ever get to try standard Hellyers? Probably not, but Hellyers Peated is, fortunately, a Hellier from me. So yes, good stuff. Not every day you can say that you've drunk Australian whiskey, and today I have tried 2, and they've both been very, very good indeed, which is nice. So we crack on with our world tour. Tomorrow, I can't remember what we've got. We'll find out. Right, I'll see you then. Cheers.